Hello, I am Pascal Fares. I am teacher. It's okay. I'm teacher at the CNAM Liban. It's associated between the CNAM and the Lebanese University. I am here not to speak about teaching, but to speak how to produce a product, something useful for somebody. So I used to work in the CNAM since the 96 with a team, a very small team, 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, and we have to implement all the software for the ERP of the university. We would have the choice to buy something finished. I decided since the 90s to produce it in-house. So how we could produce something with a minimum of human resource for a huge software. In the same time, in 96, the Lebanese university buy a software for ERP, educational ERP, for more than $6 million. So when I tell them I will do it alone with 1 person, everybody thought that I was not realistic. How I succeed? So I will try to, by speaking about open source philosophy and the Agile, how perhaps it's the reason for the success of our product. Here I will not give information of what is Agile or information what is open source. I will take the principle, the values of the two, how we could adapt them by discussing between us to make production like in any company. And if it is a better way to achieve objectives. So every engineer, every company has something to do for someone. He needs it. Probably when something, the cost, you see Pierre in the morning, we are out of the budget, out of the time, everything. And even when we are everything okay, the customer is not happy. Perhaps because we do not know how to define what the customer needs. He needs something. Who is the customer? Is the customer the director of the company which is buying something from us, or it's the user of this company? And here we see, and we will see, that Agile and open source, who ask for something are the users, not the directors. When the directors ask for something, in general, I think it's not the good product, because it is the product, I don't know from where it comes. It's very bad to speak after eating. So there is 2 ideas that are subversive for all who are working in the software development. When we say there is open source, comparing to our traditional way of producing software, it's bizarre. How we could produce something like Linux, MySQL, Android, and many more you don't know. Behind there is something open source with part-time hacking. Who is developing these? Person, hackers, someone we don't know why he is doing this. The team are many thousands of persons. So how we manage them? And they are over the planet. They have only one thing together, the internet. If you ask any manager, any software engineer, any even agile software manager, he will tell you this cannot work, but it works. So it is perhaps our conception of the things that is wrong, or there is something hidden behind this that at first look let us think that it is a bad idea. In fact, the idea behind the open source, it's a modification or a transition of the social way of working. Before, the humans were organized as the cathedral. It's mean there is some engineer, he has the knowledge, and all the others do what they are asked to do. They have no opinion about how to do things. The complexity of the technology, the evolution of the mentalities make that now we are organized more like a bazaar. The bazaar, souk, or any organization, there is no chief in it, but it works. An example of bazaar is Lebanon. Okay? Lebanon, if you ask a Frenchman or an European, he will tell you it cannot work. It's sure we have problem, but it works. We are here, we teach, we produce, we make products. We are between the rare countries who make NP positive. Yeah? So there is something, it works. So perhaps the bazaar is a way to let social produce products. If you heard about Agile and you are a manager, it's also, I think, subversive. What say the Agile? It say that the individual and the interaction are better than the processes. If you have between us managers, the managers tell you first of thing, the process. Here we are all the day. What's important is the communication, the interaction. Second, working product is more important than the documentation. I was a teacher. I teach my student. The essential thing is to make documentation. So why working products is better? So it's subversive. The collaboration with the customer is more important than the contract. Here also it's subversive for the traditional way of doing job. Responding to change, it's better than following a plan. It's surely subversive. But the Agile, this day, with all the example that we'll see, it works. It is doing added value products that exist. I will now take the 12 principles of the Agile that are the result of the explanation of these values, and we will see for each of them what it is, and in the open source how we adapt or how it exists. We will see on the over the 12 principle, there's some principle that doesn't fit. So the priority number one of Agile, it's to satisfy the customer. In fact, it's the priority of every company. To satisfy the customer, in the technology of computing, the best way, the Agile say, is to deliver rapidly, continuously, products to help because in this way we help the user to give him, we let him, excuse my English, I'm searching the words, to let him help us to decide rapidly if what we are making is good for him or not. In the open source, we have end customer in principle. In open source, it's a community that one of the developers, the initiator of the project, decide that he needs it. So in fact, the developer in the open source are the customer. But we don't tell that they are a customer. And in the habits of open source, they deliver every night before going to bed a version. This version, it's not for a customer, because the customer, we don't know who he is. But there is every day. It's more quicker than Agile. Agile tell 2 weeks, 2 months. In open source, every night before going, we make commit in the JET, and we have a version. We have something. We can say if it's good, not good. We change. Here, in my work, what I do for these two, in fact, of course, I will not going to make a version every day. It's too much. My customer will not, my direction, my end user will not accept that every day I tell them this is something new. But when they ask for me something, I try to make something the quickest possible and give it to them. If they don't like it, we put it at the poubelle, trash. It took 1 or 2 weeks of working. Okay, it's better than waiting 6 months and to say it's not okay. So we open source and Agile for this point. We apply it, make a mix between the two. You have product not like Agile, who say fixed period. If the man of Scrum hear me, will not be happy. I take a task and I say I must do it the quickest possible. And I fix a date, of course, the earlier possible. If why in open source it works? Because we have many developers. In my company, there is few developers, but we are using tools that others are doing. And when we take them, we are winning time. When I use tools that are open source, when I follow communities who help the developers with tutorials, with examples, with a piece of code that they can bring, you help them to go quicker. At least it helps them, I think, to see how they could do it. Sometimes they need time to understand what is happening, but it's quicker than using a product we don't know what there is in it. And we wait. Anyway, in my company, they do not have money to pay for support. So if I have a product closed without support, I can do nothing. If I have a product open source without support, I have an escape to do it.
How do you agree on one release? Even there are many developers that are improving some points.
Because there is hierarchy between the developers. And after there is person who propose new code, there is the integrator, there is the tester, there is, and sometimes many group of person produce the same functionalities, so there is concurrence between functionalities, and in the company we cannot do this. But in the open source, there is concurrence between the functionalities. There is tester who decide this one is better than this one. Eh?
But the question is that how do you actually get the commitment when actually when you log in to the open source community, okay, and you say that I have this task to perform.
We will see. It's issues. In the open source communities, there is no task. There is anybody, customers, strangers, anybody, say, I would like to have. Why not to do? Comments. There is developers who say, yes, good idea, I like to do this. Why he like to do this? Because perhaps the developer need it. For a big community like Linux, MySQL, it's the customer, it's product for developer, in fact. So the customer is the developer. An idea coming from the outside of the community help the community to decide or to choose between activities to do. In my university, the issues or the request is any person in the university. We are not managed. I have a team that ask me something. There is the chief of department say, I need this. He tell the team, okay. Another one say, for the exam we need this. The student come, he say, why I can't see my, I don't know what. Why we don't pay automatically online? Why? It's request, issues. So we decide together, we are 2, we are 3, we will do this before this. This we haven't the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Time. How do you confine? How do you actually get the commitment that you will deliver in that specific time frame? Because it's not because you have a project.
Because, of course, because at the final, we will say for the team, this task we need it before the end of December. So all the effort in the small team, all the effort will be for this urgent task. In the open source community, the big one, there are thousands of developers. It will be done. I give an example, Ubuntu. Ubuntu say, each 6 months, I will give a new version. Like our 13 seconds this morning. We start developing. After 6 months, we stop. Everything working is the new version. And everything not working is shifted for the next version. Anyway, there is more things done in this manner than if you plan to do one task, and because you are not achieving this task, you neglected other one easier to do. When you make a planning fix it, you decide, the project manager decide this task is important. Why he decide this? Perhaps alone, perhaps him and directors, not the users. When we give the power to the user, we'll see, to decide what is important, you will deliver in time the majority of the functionality, not all. We never finish all the, I don't know, in 40 years of career, I never finish, never, a project in time. Never in the budget, never. The best one, it was when I was in France for the air traffic control, and it has 10 years late. Not 1, 10. Eh? Another one, finished at time for the SNCF. The SNCF, the train in France. So they was finished in time, they delivered it, and there was a big strike. They don't want to use this software. So if they don't want to use this software, the French government has paid money For us, I was in Capgemini, many millions. We were paid, no problem. But this software in the trash. Never it was used. Because they make strike, they don't want to use it.
Why? Because they had another one, another system?
They was at
Manual?
manual, and they don't want to change. It's it's not their way of working. It's not their way of working. They start to ask more money to use the software. The direction tell them, no, we make the software to have less person working. And so it starts strike, and it doesn't work. The open source and the agile, in my opinion, solve this kind of problem. The real problem we arrive at this is the requirement. Who decide what is the requirement for a product? A product that we don't know what it is yet. The open source has the opportunity to produce something, try it, and when we see something, you can say, I like, I don't like. I can see if there is a community that accepts to use it. MySQL, some 10, 12 person make a database. They have 100 person who use it. After that, Oracle buy it. And Oracle, it's known not to be an open source company. But she is shifting to open source. Because, yes, Oracle, Java, MySQL, c'est devenu Oracle. Why they are shifting? I am sure Microsoft will shift.
Don't point to
No, you're I point you because you use Microsoft for development. They will shift because I don't think they can manage to continue to produce systems that do not work. Every 2-3 years they must invest again, and they have near them software that is going to be developed with no cost, approximately no cost. If you take the example of Android, Google in less than 1 year, she decided to make something to be in face of Apple, and in 1 year she make better. Why Apple is now less? Sure, Android go faster. Microsoft, the same thing. Microsoft, it was the monopoly in all the small computers. Why she didn't succeed in the mobile? Because if we want to stay alone, it's very difficult. Especially to know what the customer wants. When we give the customer the power to say what is the requirement, you help to give a product that will be sold easier, because he asked for it. I give it what he exactly wants. And in the mass, if there is something he don't like, it's cheap, so he accepts. He don't accept to pay much money. In Lebanon, they don't know how much it costs. In a university in France, if they want to use Office, they have, for each student, they must pay. Here in Lebanon, it's all free. So it's difficult to explain here, of course, why to use open source. This is free, this is not free. The open source in Lebanon costs more than the government pay. Because I was in the ministry and we are filmed, I cannot speak. If I speak, I go to tomorrow. Donc, the Agile accept and preconize that we took the requirements even if they change. Yeah. When we are developers, even when we are Agile, it's very frustrating to change the requirement when we are producing. But it's better to do it, I think, because your customer, if you don't do it, you will give a product that is not suited by him. He will make noise, and they will say you don't know to do your job. And you make what he like, and he is happy from you. Open source, in fact, it's not so agile in this point, because the open source community, when she starts doing something, she has a big quantity of developers who are doing something. It's very, very difficult to say stop, because you have no direct effect on developers. So when something is going to be done, what happens in general, the person who changed the requirement and agree with the change of requirement, they make a fork. When they make a fork, we have in parallel two projects who are doing the same thing. It happened with Open Document and LibreOffice. When Oracle buy OpenOffice, some developers decide to make a fork, so it's the same code, but they start to diverge. This happened in the open source. Who win? There are two open source projects. One of them with the time will die, and the other will win. If I am a company, I cannot do this. I understand. I can't let developers who is working because they think this is good, other developers who is working because they think it is good. But if we make like Scrum what he asked us to do, and if we try to apply it to the open source, we could succeed to accept the change of requirement. So it will be a win for the open source and the ability to make forking. If we can afford it, it's sometimes good because it makes concurrence between ideas, and it will make, in the end, better products. But of course, it costs. In the open source, to answer for the money, when we make fork, when Google decide to make a fork of Linux and a fork of Java, she make a fork of the two. She invests money. She didn't wait to have developers in the world who agree with her. She make a fork of Linux and Java, pay money for 100, 200 developers. She inject them in the project open source, and she wait. It happened that she found more than the 200 person that she paid, 1,000, 2,000 person who agreed to help them. And in fact, the other person, if you look well, you will find between them developer paid by Samsung, developer paid by Lenovo, developer paid by so the open source is not only hackers. There are somebody who is paying something to try to produce something quicker and to share. The idea behind this is the sharing of work. تعاضد. التعاضد ما بيمنع, pardon, it will not say that after they will not be concurrence to solve the same product. Why not? What we sell in open source is services. So the services, the client, the customer will choose the best services. The software is not important for the end user. He will never understand if I speak with a Microsoft who like Microsoft Windows, me I like Linux, I speak between them and the customer is hearing to us. It's not his problem what we are saying. He wants a software, a system that help him to do his job. It's all. All the other is between us as developers. We have ideas, we have our ego, we have all own the all. Anybody owns the all. It's public. It's public. Look, the next principle is delivering software frequently. Donc, I already speak about that before. Donc, the open source every day, but the open source, because they are numbers of developers, they have many versions. Even in small team, when we use products linked to the open source to develop project, we have many versions. So we can choose. Somebody will come between the team and say this is working, this is not working. So, and we can test. We try this. It took 2-3 days. Before delivering, you can test, say yes, it's working, it's not working, it explode, we must throw it à la poubelle. Bon. Somebody will tell me we are losing time. I tell, no, I'm not losing time, because anyway, I will lose more time if I do something for a long period when I like the SNCF project, and after it's go to the trash. So we must make an equilibrium between the two. In the Agile, we say that the customers, the business people, not the directors, who will in the end use the product, must work with the team. They must be with us. If they work with us, they are a member of the team, we make the product they wish. At least it's easier to make the product they wish. In the open source, there is no customer. There is no business person. The business person is the community at all, as an entity. We are all together the business person. But in fact, in this case, we can say that business people are part of, it's more than the Agile, they are all part. And it's essential, I think, and it's the reason for the success of open source, because the developer of the open source is himself the customer. When they do NetBeans for development, it's the person who needed to develop program in Java that defined the product that must help him to develop Java. So he make the project he wished to have. If he buy GDeveloper, or if he buy Visual something, he will get 80% of what he wish. In this case, he have 100% of what he wish. He is developer, he develop his own product, he is happy. And it's for the ego, it's interesting also. I make the product that I use every day. To build a product also, you must build the team. To build a good team is to have motivated individuals. So if you have motivated individuals, you don't need to manage them. You just need to put some guidelines, but if they are motivated, they will work. This is a main stress for the Agile community, how to motivate the persons. In the open source community, if you decide to be freelancer on a project, it means that you are motivated, or you don't come. For the question you asked me, if something must be done, and nobody in the open source community wish to do it, how will we solve the problem? It will not be solved. I say, if there is nobody to do a task, who wish to do a task, probably this task is useless. I think.
Or recruit someone to do it.
Or you recruit, like Google done for Android, to start, to make the kickoff. You make a kickoff, you try. If you don't find a community to follow you, probably it's a bad idea. It's useless to continue. When some customer asks you a product, you make the version 1, he don't use it. The version 2, he don't use it. In the ministry, if 3, 4, 5 change, 10 years later we are still changing the version because there's something. It's not who is developing. He developed what he was asked to do. It's the customer. He don't know what he wants. But because the relation is not done direct between the users and the developers, it's the person who agreed to do something, but this something, we force the production of this something by paying money, and we have this something, but nobody use it. Here you have this something because they are motivated to produce this something. In a small company like us with 3, 4, 5 developers, when the end user asks for something, when the developers who are living in this company for more than 20 years, they know what happened, the history, that this request is not important. So they are not motivated to do it. So they take time to do it. 9 times over 10, the customer forget what he asked because it was not important. 1 over 10, it was important, everyone must do it. He hire his voice, we do it for him. Okay? In the final, it's not true? If I want to develop the 10 things, it's not a team of 3 or 4 persons, I need 20 persons. And what will happen? We will have an elephant at the end, and we cannot eat the elephant. If we want to measure the evolution, the progress of the work, we can use old, in the 80s, when I worked in software companies, the developer developed 100, 200, 300 line of code by day. It is the progress. This is not a progress. It's nothing. It's poesy, perhaps. What is important, it's what we deliver and what we use. Yeah? The progress is measured only on working product. It's not important for me to, when one of my developers tell me, I developed this, it took with me 2 months. Okay, what we do with it? It's not working, so you do nothing. For me, he do nothing. I must not pay him his salary. In fact, I pay, but I must not pay. Why I will pay? The open source agree perfectly with this. Even in the open source community, if a product doesn't work, you don't even know that he exists. You know the existence of product, only the working product, Linux, Android, MySQL, NetBeans. The others, thousands, millions perhaps, we don't know that they exist because no effect on the environment. Yes?
I want to say that you were measuring the progress after 2 months. Is there any way to make this incremental step shorter so that you don't reach the 2 months and find out at the end that it's not working? Some kind of continuous follow-up while you're developing?
It depends on the complexity of what you are doing.
Yeah,
In small teams, 2 months is too big. Of course, we make 1 week, 2 weeks, it's enough. But in big project, software for airplanes or something, in 2 weeks we do nothing. So it depends on the project. This period of time, it depends on the team. The team decide what is the good steps. This is Agile. They define fixed steps. In open source, there is no fixed steps. I will say it after. There is, we have 2, 3, 5 tasks. We must do them and finish them before this delay, because it's important before this time. If we cannot do it, sometimes we'll stop doing it. So sometimes it tasks 1 week, sometimes 2 months, sometimes 1 year. The task, not all the version. Ensuite, the Agile stress to make a team that develop always quicker. So we must organize the team to be always the same capacity of producing, and each time a little better. This words of sustainable development, sponsor developers, what they are doing on the project to make the project produce more value, etc. It's not used as the same vocabulary but in the open source, but it's the spirit of the open source. The open source, when there is something working, Ubuntu, Android, it adapts itself to be more and more productive. If we take Apache start in with 10, 12 person who want to make a web server. It became now an enterprise with directors, chiefs, generals, sub-generals. So they organize themselves. They are still open source, but they organize themselves to be more productive. This is the essence of the open source, but without rules. They try to do this, but without saying they are doing this. Anyway, the project that do not do this, he will die. If Linux don't try to always do best, it will stop. So if it's Linux, perhaps who use desktop don't see that Linux is anyway, that it's big. In fact, Linux is everywhere else, in the TV, in the games, the game box, in the servers, in the planes, in the cars, in the غسالة, everywhere. The wash machine, Java and Linux are everywhere. There is one place they are not yet everywhere, is the desktop. Also,
what do you think that had a problem penetrating desktop?
the habits of persons. No,
It wasn't before. Right now they are getting better.
they are applying this. This and the precedent one. The objective is to sustain the development and to the excellence. So if you get teams that produce each time better product than before, finally this product will be visible. Why Linux in the servers? Because it's easier for a system admin or a network admin to configure a server with Linux. More securely, more machin. He find more documents about this, and surely it come that the servers was developed early in the 70s and the 80s. And in this time, it was already Unix. So the same person who manages the servers are more à l'aise, more, comment on dit, on hand with Linux, in fact, because they were Unix. The desktop is for new customers. They start to use the computer in the 90s. In the home, the children, the parents, they are not computer scientists. So they used to use this product. They are no, they are not satisfied. They are always saying it don't work, it don't work. But if you tell them, you teach him to use Office. 20 years he is using Office. You tell him now, I will give you something else. Less functions, different functions, perhaps better, but he's not used to use them. What happened with Mireille? She tried, the fonts change, it's jump from page to page. She has no time to learn or to use this product. And why? Always we are saying, I am using something that must achieve my needs. So if we don't put the money in it, there is no need to change. If a company decides Open Office is costing me too much, and he will oblige the persons to change their habit, and he will fight with them. Perhaps they will make strike, who knows? They will not change. There's no reason to change because it's a good product. Yeah? We come back to this. If something is good, it's good. The Agile or even the open source of even don't tell you stop using product because you like it. The free software, Richard Stallman is the philosopher. Mr. Stallman say we must not use closed program because it's by freedom. And he say the freedom is more important than the habit or the use or what else. And he put, there is 5 or 6 days, he put a war. The humanity go to war for freedom. So why they don't accept to make a small effort to get freedom with the software? But bon, this is, I am not speaking free software. I'm speaking open source. The simplicity. This is something, when you do something, it must be simple. If it's not simple, I say, and the Agile say, that probably is the wrong solution. Anyway, something that is not simple to explain, not simple to produce, not simple to use, it will never be used. If each time we must choose something, we must make a course of 100 hours, it's not good. Something easy, you open the computer, you try to use it 1 day, 2 days alone. This is the simplicity. The function special for I don't know which case. What? I must finish in 3 minutes? Yes. I am up and in the half. Bon, so I will not continue with the. I will just try to make a conclusion of how to manage open source in a way that it will help to produce product for companies that need to win money. So in fact, the ideas that I am using in my team is to use the open source platforms that they use for their development and adapt them for my small team. So I try to link between four essential acts in the Agile and how we do it with the open source. I has here to say, but I will go quicker. The management of open source is something that I call the duocracy. The duocracy is the it's not democracy. The democracy, we elect the responsible. There is the autocracy, we design the responsible. The duocracy, who is managing the things, is the person who is doing them. And the open source is that. It's the duocracy. It's a new kind of management. We have no time to speak about it, but in fact, in open source, if you look how they manage it, they use the issues. The issues is the only input between the customers and the team. They say, I want this. This is not working. Why you don't do this? Why? So if we take an issue and we put it as a story in the Scrum, and to put it, in fact, in the backlog. Here we have the first step is to decide which issue we will put in the backlog. When the issue is in the backlog, we decide which story in the backlog we will work on it. In fact, between all the issues, there is issues that we decide that must be done, and the issues that we decide not to answer. So if we use after that, I don't know if you know Scrum a little bit. So in Scrum, we have sprints. In the sprints, we will decide each 2 months, each 2 weeks, we must do a list of stories. In open source, we call them milestones. In the milestones, we say in December, I must deliver. We put a list of issues in this milestone. So the list of issues in the milestone is the same than, equivalent, it's not the same, to stories in the backlog of the sprint. I, after define many kind of issues, we have the ISSEA issues. We never remove an issue, but we say this issue is not, today it's not important, so I leave it not planified. I call it ISSEA. If I tag an issue, I can tag it. And here I am like Kaban. I will tag it. We must do it. It's under working. It's finished, tested, delivered. So it's tag on issues. But in fact, the tag on issues make me agile, because in fact I use the concept agile in the product open source. They use it every day, no? This ISSEA will. And we delivered, etc. And it worked. And if we have the time, we'll see how a planning meeting that is crucial for Scrum, how we do it in open source, the review meeting, how you do it, the stand-up meeting. The stand-up meeting, I will finish with that. It's the essential work to give a push to the team. In fact, in Scrum, every day, if I am not wrong, we must ask them these 3 questions. What you do yesterday, if you do it or not, and why you cannot do it. And this is public. We say this publicly to all the other members of the team. In open source, we are not in the same location. So how we do it? The idea is to put them on a forum. And every day, not only here it's more public than Scrum. It's public even for my customers. And I will try with this, with point C, to convince my customer that if something I don't deliver it, it's not because I'm not working, because I found problems. If he is, after times, he will think, or il aura confiance. He will accept that I can be sometime late for something. And I thank you for your presence.